Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the PowerCat Questions podcast. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, and the one and only Ryan Gills Gilbert, right here in the GPC studios. Gills, you look a little tired, need a haircut, and other than that, you're fantastic.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. We're sponsored by The Fridge. You are not allowed to take naps nor get your haircut at The Fridge, but Ryan Gilbert might swing by there and pick up something fun for him and the little lady to have later, like a candy bar. You can get those at The Fridge now, but why? Why? You know, you already go in and you reward yourself with some delicious spirits or wine. Why do you need a Snickers? But you can do it. You can get a 5-hour. You can do it. You can even get a lime and even the mixes for your drink. And then when you're all done buying that, stop into the cigar shop right there and get yourself a stogie and make a damn night of it at The Fridge.
Where's it at?
Corner of this and that, town in which we live. Folks, it's at the streets right up here. That Westport and Claflin. Those two. That I can never remember. And yeah, so we've had great suggestions. Put a sign up. Actually get traffic signs, because that would actually be funny to have in the office. I think that'd be kind of fitting. But no, I'd much rather roll with this. We got some great questions from Wabash Station. We're going to do a little exercise in the second half of this podcast.
We're exercising?
No, look at me. Come on, man. We're going to do a little mental exercise called What Will the Cats Be Seated in Kansas City? You can sneeze over there?
I'm trying my best to either do it or not do it. I'm kind of in between.
You're turning very red. You're just let it rip, man. We're going to leave it in the podcast.
I can't go right now.
You're caught
on the spot.
You're in the limbo now?
Yeah.
Oh, those are horrible.
Might sneeze, might not.
Dude will ignore you. He only worries about me with sneezes. The weirdest thing my dog does. I sneeze and he just comes running like I've blown up. Everyone else sneezes and he doesn't even flinch. He knows something. That dog knows something. He's a smart dog. Okay, here we go with your questions from Wabash Station. We appreciate you listening. Make sure you're subscribing to this podcast on whatever provider you like, as I stutter. And make sure you follow our YouTube page. Hit subscribe on that. All of that is free. It helps us out quite a bit. And if you're on Apple, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. Look, if you think we're 4-star, keep it to your damn self. We only want the 5 stars, like safest down in Oklahoma.
The Tuscaloosa.
No, safest is Oklahoma. Don't be putting safest down in there in the South. I'm an Okie. Here we go. Cole Carmody with your questions from Wabash Station.
First question comes from Eric Schneid. When is the press conference to announce Gills is leaving to join the basketball staff as a special advisor to Jerome Tang? Now, before we answer this question, it is important to note he did say Zach in his question, but we believe and we came to the conclusion that he is talking about Ryan, since Coach Tang did shout him out, if you are unaware.
After the Iowa State game, yeah.
Now, but I got to ask you guys this. We had this conversation at the apartment. This was in good spirit, right?
No. I thought it was until I watched it. I think he was being a little snarky.
I think he was being snarky because Gills was 100% right.
I thought he was trying to be funny.
Well, I would have taken it more as funny if he'd gone on and answered the question, because Tim Everson, our pal from the Mercury, asked about changing the lineup, and his whole answer was, well, I read on Twitter that Ryan wanted me to change the lineup because he said I wasn't married to the lineup, and so I did. And I thought then, because I wasn't in that press conference, I thought then he'd go on and say, this is why I did. No, that was his answer. That's why I thought it was snarky. But, I don't think Coach Tang is that mean-spirited. I think he was just, maybe it came across more, but we laughed. We thought it was funny. And honestly, Gills also suggested different defensive rotations, how to get Keontae Johnson going. And also, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, he said, what if we turned out the lights during a sandstorm and used everyone's lights on their phones? Ryan Gilbert is changing the face of Kansas State athletics in a way none of you have ever dreamed. He's a leader. He's a visionary. And by God, he's a friend of mine, Ryan Gilbert.
Coach Gilbert.
Coach Ryan Gilbert.
Thank you.
What do you think, Gills?
When it first initially happened, I thought it was kind of a jab at me, but I don't know. By and large, it's not that big of a deal one way or another. But
let's be honest, he stuck with the lineup again.
He did.
Sure, yeah. So
Like,
that lineup's now at 2-0.
Like, I think he meant it lighthearted, but at the same time, it was a jab because you were right. I think that's what it came down to. It was like, yeah, I saw that, but also he was right.
It's kind of like a backhanded compliment.
A little bit.
And let me back this up with this. He shared a story last night, Tuesday night, after the win over Baylor, about one of his staff members, Anthony Winchester, talking about, Coach, you used to always be telling the team to go, get on the fast break, and now you're telling them to slow down. And he admitted that he pushed back on that and then went home and evaluated it, came back to the office the next day and said, you know what? You're right.
yeah.
So I wonder if Jerome Tang isn't admitting that outside thoughts like that, sometimes he takes it personally, like you're attacking what I'm doing instead of just making a suggestion. We all have things that we want to change about ourselves, and we all like to think Jerome Tang and Jerome Yang, by the way, I don't want to leave you out, is, superhuman because he can obviously jump. So, but yeah, maybe that's just something he does. He just kind of pulls back when you say you're doing something wrong, even if it's politely stated.
And maybe this is...
Although, in all fairness, Jackass over here, God, that's not your name. Ryan Gilbert did call everyone names when he put out. Okay, he didn't. But it was implied that he was smarter than everyone. No, he didn't do that either. He was having fun on Twitter. Oh, that's what he did. Okay.
I think it's cool that Tang has that relationship now with the media. He knows who he can say things like that to, I feel like. I agree. Like he wouldn't say that to somebody who's not around a lot.
No.
But he kind of understands the inner workings and the dynamics of, how everybody on in the K-State media. I think it's cool because there's no way that, the former coach would have said anything. He never even mentioned people by name. I mean, he knows everybody's name.
I'm honestly, 2-3 years into the previous coaching staff, he still didn't know my name.
Yeah.
And when he called D. Scott Fritz and the dude at the thing, he didn't know his name. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, I'll say this. I want Coach Tang to understand now, I'm keeping this in my back pocket. If he ever, in his next 20 years as Kansas State's basketball coach, and I'll be here, says, well, I don't read stuff on Twitter, I will respond, well, tell Ryan Gilbert that.
Yeah.
And, everyone will be going, who's Ryan Gilbert? Because he'll be a has-been by then. I mean, 20 years from now, what's he going to be doing? He's going to be like juggling on the streets of Reno.
That's pretty specific.
I can see the future.
Next question comes from Darren Sproul, super fan. How did this coaching staff make such a miraculous turnaround? I believe preseason, Zach, I don't think he spelled this right with this word right, but it'd be consensus had this team finishing at best 5th or 6th.
That word is consciousness.
Consciousness. Preseason consciousness?
I think he probably meant consensus, but the word that is before us is indeed a word.
I was like, I know what that says.
Consciousness.
I know what that says.
I think he did mean consensus. Apologies, I missed that one.
We're picking up the greater consciousness of all of college basketball. What was the question again?
He says, how did they make such a miraculous turnaround? I believe preseason consensus had this team finishing at best 5th or 6th.
All I'm thinking about is this is a guy that's a Darren Sproles super fan asking a basketball question. Like, are we sure this isn't a football question?
Okay. I would contend that while they expected to be successful this year, this goes beyond even their own expectations. They didn't expect to be, 3 games from the end of the regular season and in 3rd place in the Big 12. They didn't expect to be not just a lock to be in the NCAA tournament already, but probably a top 4 seed. They're going to have to lose out probably to screw that up. In all honesty, if losing at Texas Tech and Oklahoma didn't blow up them being a top 4 seed, because even after that, they were a 3 seed. According to the actual committee, not Joe Lunardi or CBS or anyone else, the actual committee now puts out the top 16, and they were a 3 seed after those 2 losses. I was stunned by it, but again, I don't follow all of I'm not a voter. I focus on Kansas State, and I don't follow it all. And I guess in the big picture, they would be. But guys, if they win a game or 2 more, certainly 2 more, if they win a game in Kansas City, they might be a 3 or even a 2, depending on what else goes out. That just blows my mind, because even when Kansas State won the Big 12, they weren't that high a seed, were they?
No,
I don't. I'd have to go back.
They were a 3 seed.
3.
No, they were both 4 seeds.
Yeah, I thought they were both 4s. Unbelievable.
And they lost to 13.
I think I can see them getting to that 2 line. I really can. I mean, if they win 2 of these 3 remaining regular season games and win a game in Kansas City, you're looking at 25 regular season wins.
Oh, man, that's getting up there.
In the best conference in America.
Let's get up there, yep.
It's hard to argue that you're not one of the best 8 teams in the country at that point.
Well, winning the Big 12 title means nothing in Kansas City. I mean, the tournament. Winning the tournament means nothing because really by then the committee's kind of got everything baked in. They're just going to move things around if there's a stunning upset. So if you're in the championship game, and you're playing Texas or Kansas or even Baylor or anyone in the Big 12.
You've already cemented your spot.
You're baked into your seed probably, unless they're either oring the winner of that game between a 2 and a 3.
You could even make the argument. K-State wins what? How many games they got to play in Kansas City? 3.
Mm-hmm.
So they got potentially 6 more games until the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Is hypothetically speaking, if they win 6 games in a row, you could make them an argument as a 1 seed.
No, if they win 6 games and win them, I think they would. They would.
Which is just remarkable, especially considering they could finish 3rd in the conference. But the thing is, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
That's what's amazing about that is if they go 3-0 in the regular season to finish up, they still will, in all likelihood, be 3rd in the conference. All right. We'll get to that later in this episode, but it's fascinating that Texas and Kansas have opened up a 2-game gap now on everyone else, kind of snuck that out there. So they would both have to go 1-2, unlikely, in K-State 3-0, just to get a tie going here. Very, very, very interesting to me.
I just don't see a world where Baylor gets a seed higher than K-State, assuming that they have similar ending of the seasons based upon K-State has beaten them head-to-head twice. It's very hard for the committee to argue that K-State's not better than Baylor when they've literally beat them on the road and on their home court. And they dominated them. Let's just call it how it is on Tuesday night. They dominated them. So
that might have been one of the better games they played as a team because they didn't shoot the ball well. Mm-hmm. They were awful from 3-point range, but they went to the boards. They got rebounds. Their scoring in the paint was outrageous. 42-16? They outscored a team with two of the best posts in the league that come in, rotate. They always have a really big, strong, physical post player in that K-State lacks, and they still did it. Damn it. Now I'm going to sneeze.
Back to the question, though. It's really interesting because I believe that the answer is hard work that K-State put in the offseason and throughout the season, just in practices, working on fundamentals, scouting, all that stuff. But the last couple of games, this kind of started after the Oklahoma game, that Tang has said that they're going to ease up practices, give them more breaks, and so that they can have fresh feet under them. And we're starting to see now that maybe not working as hard is beneficial, but by and large for the whole season. To answer your question, Darren Sproul's super fan. I think it's just the work in the off season and in the gym, practice facility, all that stuff.
Our podcast, I just leave those in. Just my sneezes in the background. I thought it was interesting. He talked about that last night, about kind of backing off, trying to keep them fresh. Because he also said we have them go really hard for a brief period of time, just kind of get them warmed up and get going, and then they back off. Like, I mean, there's a science there that I don't understand, but you can't just shut the body down all the way. I have, by the way, and you can see the results. They're amazing. I mean, I'm a specimen. But they make them go really hard, and maybe that's where, when someone told me they're going really hard in practice, that's what they knew about. But then they back off and get them fresh. And let's be blunt here. They were better against Iowa State, but they looked like their old selves against Baylor. They looked fresh, and not just physically, mentally. They looked like they got back to what they need to do, which means, and I think Marquise Noel, Coach Tang brought this up too, that I think he told the guys in the locker room at halftime at Iowa State, look, if I'm putting the ball on the floor, going to the hole, I need people to get the ball to. Because if you go back, he would get up in the air, and there's literally no one available. Nobody has moved. They're all standing behind the three-point lane, which they didn't do earlier, and they're not doing now. They continue to attack the rim, make themselves available to their point guard. Anytime he has 10 assists and 0 turnovers, I don't care if he's 0 for 6 from three-point range or whatever he was. It was 0 for 6, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. They're probably going to win because that's how good he was. Now, you add in the possibility that he has one of those games and he hits 3 of those three-pointers, K-State can and will beat anyone in the country. And that's what makes this interesting.
What's cool about this whole situation, guys, is I think when they put this team together, that coaching staff knew that they had an NCAA tournament team. They knew they had an NCAA tournament roster. Take that back. They knew they had an NCAA tournament roster. Maybe not a team, but they knew they had a roster of guys that could get to the NCAA tournament. The beginning part of play, conference play, I feel like Tang kind of felt like they were overachieving a little bit. And he's even said, we scored 116 points against Texas. We scored over 90 points against Baylor. You're not going to do that night in and night out.
Well, they've proven that.
He understood that. And now I think he started to realize, with backing off of practices, as you mentioned, Gills, okay, this team, they figured it out.
Right.
We don't have to push them as hard because they're starting to figure out, they've carved out roles, they've come together as a team. After watching those 2 games, that looks like a dangerous team.
Yeah, they probably knew they had the potential to be in the NCAA tournament, but there's 2 kind of subsets of coaches. The ones who can actually look at players and evaluate them for what they really are, whether they're recruiting them or they're on their roster. And there's coaches that believe just because we recruited them, they're outstanding players, like the clown that told me Javon Thomas would be all Big 12. Look, this isn't a personal attack about the young man, but if I were to scout a team and a player and he could not shoot free throws as a point guard and his name was not Doug Gottlieb, I would not believe he could be all anything. You have to be so incredible at everything else that you can overcome that. But last night is a perfect example of why a point guard needs to be able to shoot free throws, because Marquise Noel scored 10 points at the line. 10 of 10, wasn't he? And Javon Thomas couldn't shoot anything from anywhere. And one of the guys on the previous staff thought he was all Big 12. So I think they understand the type of player they got, the type of basketball they wanted to play, and how each one of those guys fit into all of that. And as they got on and on, they were lacking the alpha, not understanding that Marquise Noel was kind of becoming an alpha, wasn't just an off-the-court leader, but he would be on. And then, lo and behold, they found Keontae. And that's when it all galvanized that this was going to be a pretty good team. But this, Wow.
You lead right into the next question. Fitz from CW PowerCat. Where do Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel rank among the best K-State players of the 21st century?
It's hard for me to do this off of one season, unless you're Michael Beasley, whose one season was so spectacular that these are deep in the shadows of that. But as a pairing, they're pretty damn good.
I think you could make the argument Keontae can be in the same conversation as far as turning the program around as Beasley.
No.
Flipping the trajectory?
But let's put it this way. We got to get to the end of the season to make that evaluation.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if they make an Elite Eight run type of thing and Keontae is a force in the tournament, then I'm going to put him way up there. In Marquise, but Keontae's the one that, as we saw against Baylor, he's the dude that makes you elite. He can. And I say that with all respect that he's a great player, but he's going to get a lot better. When he gets better handles and gets his mid-range jumper down, he's going to be really dangerous in the NBA. Right now, those are holes in his game I hope he's really working on. But, let's get to the end of the season before we start talking about their legacy.
I think right now, on Twitter, those grids where you have $15 to create a starting five, I feel like both of them are probably in that $2 to $3 range.
Really?
Right now.
Might go 3 to 4, but yeah.
But
of all K-State history?
Right. At least in the 21st century. Yeah. I think that you can look at a lot of guys from a lot of past teams that you would put above. I would say that there's at least 2 guys
Are you picking
at each position before
5
each of
guys
those.
per row?
Yeah. Like there's 25 guys on this grid, 5 positions, $1 through $5. They're the $2 or $3.
Well, let's
guys.
extend this way. If Marquise keeps putting up numbers, the assist numbers, now that he's broken the record, and gets back on track scoring, is he a Rafters guy?
No.
Does he break at least one record?
Yeah.
He's going to make
has.
one NCAA tournament.
I guess
He's
yes.
broke the
He's
assist.
going to make
You're right.
one NCAA tournament. No.
You can make the argument that Bill Walker and Michael Beasley made one
there's-
NCAA tournament as well.
Well, they're also not in the Rafters.
There's too many.
And does Mike belong there?
There's too many people that are not currently in the rafters that belong there before Marquise Noel.
But
There's
also-
at least 50 guys.
So there's at least 5 guys before television became color that belong in the Rafters right now. They've
Right.
got to correct that. I mean, you got all Americans that aren't in the Rafters. They've got to correct that.
Are we? I guess the question with Marquise, if we're talking legacy, is in the 21st century, what point guards statistically compare with him?
Yeah, I'm not equipped to answer that.
There's none.
But it is hard to say.
Clemente, scoring.
Denny Clemente averaged 12 points and 3 assists in his career. Marquise Noel averages 7 assists and 17 points this year.
I'm not looking at stats with Clemente. I'm sorry.
I mean, even if you want to talk about Jake too, Marquise averages more points than Jake did. I mean, I understand that recency bias is a real thing, and the teams that they're on play the game differently. But what Marquise Noel is doing this season is unprecedented as far as statistics go. I mean, we've never seen a point guard who can dish out the rock and score at a clip that he has done this year. I mean, it's remarkable, and especially when you throw in the turnaround he had compared to last season. I mean, this is the biggest jump statistically that any player has taken, in the Big 12 at least. I mean,
if we want to mention turnovers, he's probably set a record in the last 21st century for turnovers as well.
Could be. Yeah. I don't know if that's something to keep it. That's interesting to look at. Hey, Zach, I got a quick question for you as we step aside here. Is the phrase recency bias and believing in recency bias subject to recency bias?
Probably.
Okay. Like the younger generation talks about recency bias a lot, and I'm thinking it's just recency bias. It's just something that they've studied recently, and that now they believe in.
what's a successful, as I bring this full circle, what's a successful assist to turnover ratio? 2 to 1.
Yeah.
That's what Marquise is. That's what Marquise has a better than 2 to 1 assist to turnover ratio this year. And last year,
But chucking up a 3-pointer from 45 feet out is basically a turnover.
Yeah, I think you got to look at some of the boneheaded plays that aren't necessarily statistics, bad shots.
and I agree with that, but I'll also say this. He makes those shots too. So for every 3 shots he doesn't make, statistically he's shooting 33% from 3. So for every 3 shots he doesn't take, or for every 3 shots he takes, he'll miss 2 and make 1. That's pretty good for
this is where I've come on Marquise. This is how far down the road I have come with Marquise Noel. After Cam Carter missed his 3rd 3-pointer against Baylor, I'm like, dude, shut it down. Work on other parts of your game, because he was rebounding great. I mean, he had a great game despite 0 for 5ing or whatever it was from 3-point range. He took it to the hole. He was great inside the circle, awful beyond. Marquise, after he'd missed 5 and took his 6th, I'm like, yeah, buddy, that one's going in. No, it didn't. I mean, he's kind of made me believe that he's going to make the shot, which is not at all what I thought of Marquise Noel a year ago, but he's earned that. And boy, I get back to this. Guys, they dismantled a really good team in Baylor. I mean, that's a tough matchup when Baylor's got everyone back and the freshmen now. I mean, George is amazing.
He's incredible.
George is incredible. He's a freshman. That's a tough matchup, and they took him apart. With Marquise Noel not playing well in terms of scoring. Oh, man. This team's just got a whole other layer to it.
But back to what Gil said about Denny and Jake, and that kind of puts my point in that $2 to $3 range. You're not putting Denny or Jake below Marquise right now. I don't think you can. I think that from, the last 23 years of K-State basketball.
What's the opposite of recency bias? Old bias?
The Fitz bias.
It's called being a boomer.
But no, I kind of see what Gills is saying. Denny Clemente is a unique character in K-State basketball history because the speed at which he would open up the court and then everyone else. His assist number just kind of stuns me that it was that low. But also they were essentially running 2-point guards. So everything kind of got watered down by having Jake and Denny out there together. So,
if this team goes to the places that they can go this year in the NCAA tournament,
like Buc-ee's,
they could do that.
Okay.
I don't think we're going
on the way to Houston.
On the way to Houston.
Yeah. I think that these two, it'll take some time for K-State fans to realize how good of a 1-2 combination this really is. Because even today, I hear it all the time. Oh, K-State, they're going to be pretty good next year. They're going to be. That's just what K-State fans do. They look into the future, and they tend to be more pessimistic than they should be. You have 2 guys that are going to be first team all Big 12. These 2 guys, well, they should be. They should be. They should be. I'll die on that. They should be. I think that these 2 guys are special, and you need to enjoy the last few games you have watching with them because there's not very many players that have the skill set that these 2 guys have.
There was one thing that the committee did that kind of threw me off. It's I kind of shift back a little bit. They had K-State at a 3 and KU at a 1, but both in the West going to Las Vegas, which I'm all for. I don't know if you know that about me, but I'm all for any reason to go to Vegas. And they had Houston going to Kansas City. I don't think the committee would actually do that. Houston, if you're in Houston, does it really make a difference if you're going to Kansas City or Vegas? I would almost think Vegas would be easier for them to get to, even though it's further because of the number of flights.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but anyhow, they're really good players. We need to see it shake out. I think the only person that I've seen that I truly believe belongs in the rafters and in the short term, and maybe Dean Wade gets there, but it's Barry Brown.
Yeah.
And maybe Dean, from his accolades he had. Honestly, I think Dean Wade won a lot of votes on upside. He wasn't quite everything he should have been. He was injured a little bit. I thought Bruce Weber did a horrible job of getting the best out of him, which is unlike Bruce Weber. He usually got the best out of guys. I mean, that was one of the things he did. He received a lot of conference accolades that, might get him into the rafters. But we'll see how it all plays out. If this team goes to the Final Four, both of them will be in the rafters.
Does it have to deal with – I agree. Does it have to deal with where K-State is going as a program? Because this could be that foundation team that Tang just –
that's an interesting point.
That's kind of where I see it.
Nobody's going to decide whether they belong in the rafters in April. They're going to decide if they belong in the rafters 5 years from April or whatever it is at the very earliest. And maybe the program is absolutely rocking and rolling at that point. And the appreciation for what Key and Keese and Quan, I love that they all have those kind of nicknames, have done for this team means so much more at that point. But if they have a nice little spurt here and then Jerome Tang moves on to somewhere else and the program backs up and there's nothing long-lasting, then that also probably impacts them. I don't know if that's fair or not, but I think that's realistic.
Good conversation. The last question of the first half comes from Purple_Texan. Wonder where they're from. In the past,
Purple.
I remember there being a feeling that Scott Drew was not of good character or quote-unquote slimy from Fitz and other members of the media. Has your opinion of him changed since Tang has arrived in Manhattan?
My opinion of him changed actually before that, but not in the magnitude that now it has. So early on, Scott Drew's problems were Scott Drew inflicted. Like, he was really good with the people around him and in his circle, and people at Baylor loved him. But he was known for dirty recruiting. He was known for possibly cutting corners. And he wasn't well liked by his colleagues. And I know that for a fact. And I think he's done a good job of reforming himself. I think he apologized in some way, maybe not formally, but has kind of calmed all that down because now he doesn't need a dirty recruit. I think he was a young guy in over his head in a competitive conference, and he was scraping and clawing to make things happen, and that include maybe trashing other people or, the other thing that always made people suspicious of Baylor was being a private school. They just don't let people see anything inside their program at all. They don't. I mean, it's a fortress around that basketball program. But I'll just say this: everyone thought Jerome Tang was a bad guy. Was the bag man, the guy that actually handed out the money, did all the dirty work. My God, were we wrong?
I couldn't be further from the truth.
And I've heard this from reporters all around the conference, because one of the things I really appreciate about how Jerome Tang went about his business is he didn't hog the limelight in any way from his boss down at Baylor. Despite being a very extrovert, very much an extrovert, and having a big personality, he kind of bottled that up not to overshadow his boss. Because I was talking to a beat writer after the game, and he said, yeah, he never did any of this at Baylor. I mean, what he did, first of all, the feat of athleticism he showed after that game was remarkable.
And then he sits down and says, I tried to tell you all I was athletic.
Yeah, I thought he broke his head. I thought we were going to watch the death of Jerome Tang on the court, because he jumped up on those edges of those courtside tables and they moved, and he tipped backwards. And I had a perfect side angle on him. I thought, he's going over backwards and cracking his head open from height. But yeah, I think we can admit now, over the last 5 years and what Baylor's done, we were all wrong about what was going on down there. And on top of that, it's become clear to me that they weren't going out and finding bad kids. I talked to a Baylor alum. He was on the trip with the team, so he must be pretty big up there. Maybe he was an official. I don't know. But Baylor official. And I said, Keontae George went by us on his way to the media room. And I said, that kid is special. And he goes, and he's an even nicer kid. And I think now we understand that has been a fundamental belief at Baylor. We got to go get good people who are also good basketball players. We're not going to bring in, and that's exactly what he did when he came to K-State. I'm going to bring in good people that are good basketball players. And I think we saw him back off some people that he decided were really good basketball players, but not going to fit into my locker room. I'm not bringing that time bomb into my locker room.
I remember watching Scott Drew when I was younger and saying, wow, they always get all these good players, but then they always choke. or
Well,
they have all these good players, but he can never do anything with them. I just always remember saying Scott Drew looked like the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Rick Moranis.
Yes, that's what I thought he looked like. And my opinion of him has completely changed.
Well, I think I think he Dana Altman.
Yeah.
Started too young, went through growth, and then turned out to be a really good coach as he learned more and more as he went. So I think it's impressive.
And I find myself watching Baylor more now and rooting for Baylor more now, knowing that Tang has brought that same kind of culture from Baylor to K-State. I think it's pretty cool.
Anything, Gills?
I agree.
Would you put Scott Drew on your Christmas card list?
Sure.
Okay. Do you send out Christmas cards?
No.
Good, because I didn't get one, you jackass. That's it for the first half of the Power Cat Questions podcast. Fitz and Zach and Coles and Gills, all of us with Z's. We'll be right back after this.
GoPowerCat.com's Power Cat podcast continues after this short break.
Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Welcome back to the Power Cat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the Power Cat Questions podcast, sponsored by our friends at Fridge Wholesale Liquor. If you're ever in town, whether you're a K-State fan or not, the only thing is you need stuff from the fridge. If you don't, I mean, look, it's a liquor store. Let's just be honest. But if you do enjoy products that might be found in a liquor store, even with the now less stringent rules in Kansas where they can sell mix and drinks and candy and all other things, everything you need for your party, stop at the Fridge. It's right up the corner from where we're sitting right now at Westport and Claflin in Manhattan, Kansas. If you ever rented a movie at Blockbuster in Manhattan, you know exactly where it is. Olds.
The hell's a Blockbuster?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, man.
A Taco
Kids
Tico.
these days.
Yeah, I threw the Taco Tico thing out there and just baffled people. Baffled them.
Wait,
What?
the Taco Tico.
Last week? Yeah.
It was a Taco Hut.
No,
On the hill.
I know. But we talked about Taco Tico last week.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Taco Hut where the food shoots out here. Anyhow, we're going to go to your questions at Wabash Station in a little bit. But first, we're going to have a little exercise. Okay, guys, not calisthenics. We're going to go through the remaining games on the Big 12 schedule and try to sort out who's going to be what seed. And we're using, we believe it's MRED's site. It is, you can just cite MRED is one word. The letter M as in mother, red. And then it just comes up. I mean, it's great. People use it so often, it just pops up. So, yeah, he's got every game left here. You plug in the winners and losers, and it'll spit out the bracket for the Big 12 tournament. You are doing the Lord's work if the Lord was a Big 12 basketball fan. I just want, if you're listening to this, Mr. M or Red, or maybe it's Mr. Ed. I mean, it reads, it could be Mr. Ed's, but I don't know. That got confusing. Let's just do this, guys. Okay, home team first, and everything I'm about to say. Coming up this weekend, Baylor plays host to Texas. Who wins this game? That's a really good game.
I'll go
Baylor.
Baylor.
Baylor's not losing 3 in a row.
It's at home.
You're going Baylor too? Okay. Got Baylor. Iowa State plays host to Oklahoma. Iowa State.
Close.
Kansas plays West Virginia. Okay. Oklahoma State.
For fun, though, it'd be fun to say West Virginia, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be,
the
Zach.
guys?
I know what you're up to, but let's just do this honestly.
Okay.
Oklahoma State and this team called Kansas. I don't know if it stands for statistics or Station, Kansas.
Kansas State.
That's the team we cover.
That's us.
Does K-State win that game, or does Oklahoma State win that game? No, I just put you guys on the spot. Nobody wants to answer now.
I go Oklahoma State. Until K-State, they've lost 5 in a row on the road.
Okay.
Until K-State wins one away from Bramwich, I got to go Oklahoma State.
I can't figure out
Oklahoma State's been better than they were when they played K-State the first time.
Kind of.
But now
they're starting to reel. They went through a stretch where
They were fun for a little bit. Texas Tech is now the fun team in the Big 12 right now. Yeah.
I tend to lean. I thought I was going to say Oklahoma State if you would have asked me before the game against Baylor. I would say K-State now. I think Oklahoma State's reeling. They can't score right now. K-State is playing really well. I actually think the line will be what? Oklahoma State -2?
Oh, no. I think K-State will be favored.
You think K-State will be favored?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Baylor was -1.5. That's all. I get that it's bad probably to compare different games and different teams,
but in Norman, and then Tech was favored by 1 in Lubbock.
Yeah,
and so this game, just because of
maybe
the fact that it's away from Bramwich, K-State's not going to be a favorite.
I need an answer, Zach. Who's winning?
Go Oklahoma State, because that'll at least give us some optimism when we look at this bracket.
Okay, so who would you say wins? Fitz?
I guess if for the purposes of this, I'd pick Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Okay,
just for the purposes of this.
Okay,
Texas Tech and plays host to TCU. Oh my God!
I think TCU wins that game.
You do? You think that?
Yeah.
I think the Tech run is about out of gas.
Mike Miles, Eddie Lampkin, they're back.
Okay.
They just lost a tough game. Yeah.
We just picked our first road winner. Iowa State. Now we're looking for the midweek games here of next week, February 27th through March 1st. Did you know there's only like 28 days in February?
That's wild.
That's something new they just came out with. Anyhow, Iowa State plays host to West Virginia. Gills, you're a big Steelers fan, which is like West Virginia. I mean, kind of same colors, kind of ish.
Yellow,
blue, black, dark,
gold.
yeah, whatever. They're only like 30 miles apart, an hour. You probably going to pick the Mountaineers? You're kind of a closet Mountaineer fan, aren't you?
I'll go Iowa State.
Okay.
Playing at home.
Yeah.
Hilton.
Iowa State.
Okay. Oklahoma State then plays host to Baylor. Now, look, we just picked Oklahoma State to beat the team that swept Baylor.
They're not beating K-State and Baylor in back-to-back games.
So now we're going with Baylor?
Yeah, we're taking
I
Baylor.
think if they beat K-State, they'll lose to Baylor. If K-State beats them, they'll beat Baylor. So for the purposes of this,
you guys confuse me more than my college girlfriend. Okay, Kansas plays host to Texas Tech.
Easy.
Yeah, whatever. Kansas State plays host to Oklahoma.
Yep.
they don't lose to OU again.
K-State.
Okay. And then TCU and Texas tangle at the Frog Dome.
I really want to say TCU in this game, but
yeah, I'll go TCU.
But I'm not confident in that though at all.
What do you got there, Gil?
Texas.
I'm going to override here. I'm going to say Texas.
A what?
Yeah, I'm going to step in here. I don't see Texas losing both at Baylor and TCU. I just don't see them losing both.
Oh, I guess we did take Baylor.
I'm an advantage here, staring at what we picked. Okay, Baylor and Iowa State closing up the last weekend of games.
Baylor.
Okay, Oklahoma plays host to TCU.
That seems like an upset to me. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't think it'll happen, but
I think
something is going to happen that we're not expecting.
We should pick TCU for at least when we build this bracket. Personally,
I don't care about that. What are we doing here, Gills? What are you doing?
Frogs up. Is that what do they say?
I don't think they say that.
They say we're damn happy to be here.
Sure.
Okay.
Damn happy to pick the Frogs.
Okay. Texas plays Kansas. See, these teams, one's called the Longhorns, and one, I don't even know what their mascot is. But, yeah, they play in Austin, which is weird. Not the game, the town.
Texas
going to beat KU?
They should have beat KU in Lawrence.
Okay. Well, I don't care what Gills thinks.
Okay, whatever. I got KU anyway.
Yeah, I think KU's rolling.
Oh, I want Texas.
Bill Sells.
Well, obviously, I want Texas to win this game, but
yeah, it's not what we want.
Okay,
Texas.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, before we spit this bracket out, thank you.
Me spitting out.
If they win this game, do they win the Big 12? Is that what it comes down to?
No, because we gave them another loss, though they would tie for it.
So, yeah, that's why I think Texas wins.
Texas needs to win this to tie.
Yeah.
Who do you trust more? The guy who's won, 17 conference titles, or Rodney Terry, who I love, but I'm trusting Bill Self.
I think I get that, and I agree with you, but I think Texas is more talented than Kansas.
I would
At
agree
home.
with that, yeah.
Tech plays host to
So who do we
Oklahoma
pick?
State.
We picked Texas?
We're
Yes.
picking Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Tech and Oklahoma State. And Lubbock.
That's a game that Tech, if
Texas
they win,
Tech.
they are on the bubble.
I think Texas.
Give me Tech.
wins
Okay,
that
we'll
one.
go Tech. And then West Virginia plays host to Kansas State. Does Kansas State lose its final 2 games on the road?
No.
I think they're more likely to win at Stillwater than West Virginia, but
I think West Virginia's season's over at this point. They're not in the NCAA tournament,
you're right. They would be 0-2 over the remaining games here.
and Oklahoma State's right on the bubble. If all these losses, Tech might be in. I think K-State wins that game.
West Virginia at home
They match up well with West Virginia. They
in a
really do.
game that Bob Huggins is not getting any younger. I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
Well, who among us are?
So this was the first game.
Right. First and
the
last game.
So it's been a while since these two teams have met.
Just saying. they're-
Basically since the bowl game.
And thank you. Hypothetically, not hypothetically, it's real life. Why did I say hypothetically? K-State's gotten
Hypothetically, I don't
better.
know.
West Virginia's gotten worse. West Virginia was ranked when these two teams played. K-State was still figuring themselves out. K-State has gotten better. West Virginia's gotten worse. And K-State still won.
Honestly, I don't think it matters what we pick. I think that the seedings are baked in. Let's just pick Kansas State to win this game. Calculate seeds. Imred, you're doing God's work here. It's amazing. Here we go. Texas would be the 1 seed if they tie with KU. Interesting. I wonder they must have the tiebreaker over Baylor.
It says it right
show
there.
up, yeah.
Where?
Defeated Kansas based on winning percentage against number 6 teams. TCU is 2-0.
Oh, it's up top.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it didn't pop up that way.
Oh,
it
that's
popped
weird.
up with it
Huh.
right there.
So if they
Yeah,
if they lose to TCU,
Yeah. If they lose to TCU, it
then they
becomes an
wouldn't be
issue.
the one.
Okay.
Then I think it'd go to number.
It just goes down the line.
Number
yeah.
7, right?
It'd go down to number 7. So Oklahoma State, how'd they do against Oklahoma State?
I think both teams swept.
Okay, so basically, with those games we picked, Texas would be the 1, Kansas would be the 2, Baylor would be the 3, K-State and Iowa State would play the first game on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. as the 4 and 5 seed. K-State's the 4. TCU gets the final bye as the 6th seed. The 8-9 game to qualify to play Texas is between Tech, the 8, West Virginia, the 9. And wow, we have Oklahoma State playing Bedlam Part 3 on Wednesday to play Kansas.
There could be 2 teams that play on Wednesday that get into the NCAA tournament.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to back up, and I'm going to flip a couple games here. Just see what happens out of curiosity. We had Texas losing at Baylor. We had Texas beating TCU. Let's flip those results. Let's have him. We decided Texas isn't going to lose both road games. So let's flip the results.
Texas beating Baylor and then Texas losing to TCU.
Right. Calculate seeds. Wow.
They would still get the
Texas
one.
is still number 1
So if they tie with Kansas,
because they would have beaten Baylor twice. Wow. KU's in all likelihood going to be the 2 seed. That wipes me out. That would move K-State to the 3 seed, though.
okay, well
Because that hand Baylor lost, they have the tiebreaker in Baylor, and then it just the only thing it impacts in this entire bracket is Baylor and Kansas State flip at 3 and 4.
what happens if Texas beats Baylor? They beat TCU, but they lose to Kansas.
Well, then they're not going to be number 1.
They will not be number 1.
Hold on, we had them beating both, or they lose to TCU.
They beat both and lose to Kansas, so they still finish 2-1. They would not be the number
Kansas would be the 1, Texas would be the 2, K-State would be the 3. Let's give K-State a loss. Let's let them lose at West Virginia. Calculate seeds. K-State stays 4-5 game. So in all likelihood, K-State's going to be either the 3 or the 4.
Wearing white in the first round.
Or lavender. Maybe they just go with lavender. That's it for that. Let's get to your questions from Wabash Station.
Now there is a scenario where you could get K-State to the 1 seed.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Well, they could be tied for the 1 seed, but they would end up being...
They would get the 1 seed. I did the math. I went through this simulator once.
Okay, give it to me. What is
You got to have Kansas State wins out. Then you need Texas to beat KU. And then you need Texas to lose both to Baylor and
Okay.
TCU.
it? And then KU
And
needs
then
to lose?
KU needs to lose at least once.
West Virginia, calculate seeds.
Yep, there you go. K-State's the number 1 seed.
Not according to mine, but I did something wrong there.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? I didn't flip back the Texas KU, and that's why.
You got to have Texas beat. So you got to have a bunch of stuff happen.
Oh, that didn't work out either.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. There's also a chance if K-State loses out and you can play around with the other teams. That one's a lot more complicated than this one, but
there it is. Yep.
Yeah.
That Kansas State would be the one because they would have the tiebreaker on Baylor.
Thank you, Mr. Ed.
Red, he's an Ohio State fan, I guess. We don't want to let against him. Go.
From 3G Wildcat. Now that we have 9 wins, I feel more comfortable talking NCAA tourney. What is your hope for seeding and regional placement, and what final record do you think we need to meet it?
I know Fitz would say Vegas, but I think Denver and Des Moines are hand in hand.
Vegas is the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Vegas is a step after that. I'd be really, really disappointed if as a 2 or 3 seed in the tournament they didn't get Des Moines or Denver. I would be, may I throw out dismayed? I'd be dismayed. I personally think Kansas at a 1, and everyone is assuming they will get Des Moines, and I'm sure that's what they would pick. They should absolutely be in Denver. To give them Des Moines and Kansas City is outrageous. But also, what do you do with Iowa State and Kansas State if they're both 4 seeds or top 4 seeds? I mean, you can't put – what I'm saying is if you want to sell tickets at multiple venues, which is also an effort of the committee, you send KU to Denver, and I guarantee you they will sell a ton of tickets out there. They will have more tickets available out there than whether you put them in Des Moines with Iowa State or Kansas State. It's going to be – wherever you put Iowa State – if you put Iowa State in Des Moines, it's going to be a tough ticket. Maybe they reverse that. Put Kansas in Des Moines and put Iowa State and K-State in Denver.
I just don't see how. The only lock I feel like is Iowa State's going to be in Des Moines. If they're a 4 seed, they're going to be playing one of those sessions in Des Moines.
Why? I hate that personally because
I
mean, that's the purpose of these.
But they're a 4 seed. They're a 4 seed.
Well,
they're the top seed in that section.
Yeah, they're the top seed in the 4-team bracket.
Okay.
And that's, keep in mind, folks,
There's
now
2 sessions.
These are 2 different tournaments, 2 different regions being played in essentially a pod in a first, second round. So you could have a West pod and a Midwest pod in Des Moines, which I'm confident will happen. I'm really confident Kansas is going to be in Des Moines. And then what you do with the other pod, I don't know. I also think you could ship in anyone at that point because KU will sell out the arena. I've never been in Des Moines Arena. I was supposed to be in Des Moines Arena for a concert, but there was this global pandemic.
Des Moines?
Des Moines. That's what the locals do say. But, yeah. So you think Greensboro, don't you? Or Albany?
Orlando.
Is that actually a thing? Is that
both are sides.
Greensboro
Sacramento.
and Albany might be the 2 worst arenas in the tournament outside of Dayton.
Has Lubbock ever had a pod, a first, second round? They should. That's a 15,000-seat arena.
I heard Bramlage was suited enough to host.
Don't even start me on that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Sacramento. What else? Birmingham, Albany, Orlando, Columbus. Columbus wouldn't be horrible.
Birmingham's kind of fun, actually. I mean, I've been there. It's not bad.
Gills, where do you want to go?
Gills just wants.
I want to go to. I don't know. Probably the beach. Oh, to cover the tournament.
Orlando, Vegas. You want to be in the Western bracket, but you get sent to Orlando.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, boy, what made no sense is the year that K-State was in the play-in game, and they jumped from Dayton to Sacramento.
Oof. That's tough.
That was ridiculous.
Oof.
See, I think you could potentially have K-State, Iowa State, K-State as top 4 seeds in one region. Kansas City.
You said K-State twice.
Yes. Those K-State.
The school down the road, as Jerome Tang calls it.
Yeah.
All in the
KU
same.
KU is the 1, K-State is the 3, Iowa State is the 4. Put them all in Kansas City.
Well,
You
look,
could.
yeah. I mean, let's keep in mind it hasn't that long ago when K-State, KU, Wichita State, and Kentucky were all in St. Louis together. It was chaos, and I got food poisoning.
That's a real bummer. The next question comes from Itane Bibi. Any conference Any chance conference realignment involving Pac-12 schools happens within the next 2 months? And as Big 12, do we want/need 1 or 2 Arizona schools?
I feel like this question's for me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. At this point, we need to just acknowledge that they don't have a TV deal, and they're waiting on a few things. They're waiting on a last-second shot to save them, or they're calling timeouts just to delay the inevitable to make it seem like they haven't lost yet. Now, supposedly Apple TV is now in the discussions, but I really find it hard to believe that Apple TV is going to offer them $300 million as a 10-team conference or $360 million as a 12-team conference for all of their TV rights. And by the way, that still will fall short of what the Big 12 teams will get. And while we're all concentrated on the media portion of this, the non-media portion of conference revenues, bowls, big NCAA tournament basketball, other revenue from the Big 12 far exceeds the Pac-12. So they're saying $50 million a year on top of the $32 million a year. So another $18 or $19 million a year in other revenue for every school, getting them to 50. Supposedly the SEC and Big Ten are going to be around 100. I don't believe that number personally. I think they'll be more in the 80, 90 range, still a significant gap. But even if the Pac-12 comes in at 30, at most they're going to be like at 40 total, and they're still going to be behind the Big 12. What I'm saying is, at what level does less money become acceptable for Arizona, Arizona State, and some of those other schools? I personally think it's only $1 or $2 million difference. And they can even hide behind it if it's $1 or $2 million in the media rights, because people don't understand that the media rights aren't the whole thing, and they can sell that. Because honestly, people out there aren't paying attention as much as other people are, because they don't care about college athletics, which is what this is all about. They only passively care when their team's good, with the exception of a few schools, including Utah. They think they're so good, they belong in the NBA and the NFL and the Ivy League. But, yeah, if I had to guess right now, this deal will come in at best at $25 million a school. And we're not even getting into the fact that how much streaming is too much streaming. Well, I don't know what that line is, but 100% is definitely over the line. Mm-hmm. And I would say maybe even 80. And that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking, what if Apple has you seriously want to take every one of your athletic events and put it on a streaming service that has the numbers I just saw the other night, 20% of the reach of Netflix or Amazon. Now, they've gone from Amazon, which apparently has 200 million subscribers, to Apple, which is 40 million.
That number would go up, but
it would go up by at least 12.
Yeah,
there'd be a fan from every team that would sign up.
Well, then it'd only be 10.
Well, no, SMU. Actually, no one from SMU would sign up, probably 2 from San Diego State.
The issue with Apple is it's the perception that it's tied to the device. You need an iPhone. You don't need an iPhone to watch Apple TV, but most people would think you do.
Grandma would.
Grandma would think you need an iPhone. But then again, Grandma probably has an iPhone because that's what the kids use.
But Grandma probably has an iPad too.
That's true. But I think that the Big 12 should absolutely, to the question here, they should take the Arizona schools if they want to come immediately. It should be a non-starter. Okay. They should be in the Big 12 automatically.
Getting back to that, you've got to train yourself to stop talking about markets. That's a 10-year-old concept that no longer applies to what the media entities are doing. And that was completely ESPN's doing. They trained us to talk that way because they simply wanted to sell cable subscriptions in, say, New York and New Jersey by inviting in Rutgers to the Big Ten. Okay, now look at all these cable entities where we can say, yeah, I know you have ESPN. Everyone has ESPN, but you also need to have News and Plus and, ESPN 17, whatever.
The Ocho.
They have to add everything into their. So they were basically, their whole business concept was, we're going to hold you hostage and we're going to make people that have no interest in sports pay for ESPN channels. That whole model broke. That's what ESPN's current financial troubles are all about. That model doesn't work. Here's what, and this is straight from an ESPN guy. I can't think of his name right now. That weird guy. He's got a weird Magnus. They want Burke Magnus. Yeah. They want rivalries. Period. They have learned that draws the numbers. So if you've ever said we don't want Utah because we already have the Utah market, you're wrong. They absolutely would want Utah because of the rivalry with BYU, which apparently goes beyond a typical rivalry right into awful, unhealthy. But Arizona and Arizona State, I believe, will be the first two to come in. They'll be the first two to say, let's apply. Let's get out of here. And as soon as someone says, let's get out of here, they're done. Because then it's going to be a mad scramble to be the rest of the schools coming in. No matter what their paid consultants on Twitter will tell you.
The last question of the podcast comes from WinWin1943. What do you think of Will Howard as a Heisman candidate? Does K-State have to be undefeated for him to be in the running? I like this last question.
Yes. Bartlett, yes. I mean, it's tangible. You know, I mean, who would have thought Max Duggan would be a Heisman candidate?
He's going to have to do it, like, through the air, though. Like, that's the thing that's going to harm him, is because I saw that he's up to 243 pounds now.
I think it was 242. Quit calling him fat.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable, Ryan. Your Pittsburgh Steelers legend, Ben Roethlisberger, played his last year in Pittsburgh at a lower weight than that. Did you know that?
I did not. What was his weight?
I believe it was like
240.
240. It was like 2 pounds, but still.
How do you guys all know this?
Somebody posted on the boards.
Was it?
Was
Was
it
that
Twitter?
what it was?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay. Somebody posted.
And here's the thing, is Will's just big.
He's a big dude.
Ben Roethlisberger looked like he needed to stop going to the
salad.
buffet the third time.
Mm-hmm.
He's eating too many.
Okay. I don't know what that meant. But that's big, man. And that, you know, he talked about last year, I'm not running as much. Dude, you're heavy.
Yeah, he can't this year. He can't. That's why, I mean, if we want to be completely honest, if Avery Johnson's anything close to being ready to play, it would not shock me to see him a part of 4 games and use that red shirt in specific packages where they feel like they could have an advantage in the quarterback run game and say, you're going to be a part of the game plan this week.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
But to look at the Heisman conversation, Caleb Williams won the Heisman this year, as you know. His stats were ridiculous. Now, I understand he plays in a far less superior conference.
Oh, no. I read on Twitter that the Pac-12 is better than the Big 12.
He threw 4,537 yards with 42 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He led college football in touchdown passes. Now, that was in how many games? 14 games, because he played in the bowl game, and he obviously played in the Pac-12 championship game. You bring out Will Howard and look at his stats. He threw for 1,633 yards with 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and he played in 7 games. So he played in half the game. So if you just want to straight double that, you're looking at over 3,000 yards, about 3,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 picks. That doesn't sound Heisman.
Not when you're named Will Howard.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
if you're Bryce or Caleb or, you can get close to that.
But it's also important to note too, he'll get better stats this year because he will have those games at the beginning of the year against the Troys, against who do they play game 1? Not South Dakota, but SEMO. So like those numbers will go up a little bit, you would think. But I could see them throwing the ball a lot more this year though. So maybe. I mean, if K-State is in the conversation for a playoff, then he's in the conversation, but yeah, I don't think his name is big enough unless they are in the conversation for the playoff, right? That's kind of where it comes down to.
I just don't think K-State plays a brand of football that will produce a Heisman candidate. I think it's just, you have to, if you're a quarterback, you got to throw the ball. And if you're a running back, you got to absolutely run the ball all day. And I don't think that, Deuce Vaughn was probably the closest guy they had in the last 3 years.
Adrian Martinez had the most name recognition to do it in the last 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But also that was just kind of ridiculous talk, too.
Yeah, sure.
So, K-State has to be undefeated. Absolutely. To this question, yes. If they lose a game, forget it.
What's the tight end award? The best tight end in the country? How do you get? Is it the Butkus? Is that what it is?
That's linebacker.
Or not Butkus?
You're thinking about tight ends and butts.
Actually, I was thinking
I have no idea.
I was thinking of Mike Ditka. He was a tight end, but yeah.
Okay.
Ben Sinnott could get an award.
So I'm on the Caesars Sportsbook, which is affiliated with CBS. That's why I'm using it. Will Howard is one of the 94 players listed on their futures list for Heisman Trophy.
Is Jake Rubley?
No, he's not on there.
He was last year.
Well, okay. He is plus 15,000.
It actually would be a pretty good futures bet.
Ryan Gilbert, would you bet $10 to win $1,500
No.
on Will Howard?
No. I need a lot more than 15,000 plus 15,000.
I agree.
Would you put $5 on it to win?
No, I wouldn't. I just don't. I think it's throwing money away. Now, if this bet was to make it to New York, maybe, but no. Who's the?
Okay? Out of curiosity, what's Jalen Daniels?
See if I can find him. I hate that you can't search these things. Yep. Dylan Gabriel
What's he at?
plus 4,000.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I saw that guy play. That's nonsense. Jalen Daniels.
But he has a better chance to win than Will
Right.
Howard because of the name on the front of his jersey.
Jalen Daniels plus 6,000. That is. Will Howard is 2.5 times
That's
higher.
ridiculous.
I'm with you on that.
It's good value on Will Howard, that's for sure.
That is absolutely that just makes me want to throw up. Will Howard's a better quarterback than Jalen Daniels.
Arch Manning has better odds.
Then Will Howard?
At plus 8,000, yeah.
Just put $10 and the line will come down.
Hudson Card plus 10,000.
Are you serious? At Purdue?
I don't know, man. Who else we got? I don't even know a lot of these guys. Boop, beep, bing, bong, boom. Here we go. Corey Brooks is plus 15,000. Graham Mertz is plus 15,000. Now, come on. Graham Mertz, great kid, but putting him on the same level as Will Howard, the game doesn't add up to that.
So that should tell you what they think about Kansas State. Even after winning the Big 12, the quarterback who was one of the better quarterbacks in the conference still has absolutely no name recognition. That is an issue. And if you don't think that those football players know that.
K-State is plus 8,000, by the way, to win the NCAA title in football.
See, I'd take that 100% over Will Howard winning a Heisman.
10 to win 800?
Yeah.
Huh. You want to guess who the highest Big 12 team to win the national championship is?
Texas.
And
Sooners.
Highest is in best odds or worst odds?
Best odds.
Texas,
Highest.
Oklahoma, TCU, in that order.
Sooners?
Yeah, Texas.
I lost Oklahoma. Where'd they go? Oklahoma and TCU are tied for second at plus 4,000. Texas is plus 2,000.
It's okay State's fourth.
K-State's next, yeah. I believe.
What?
Yeah.
8,000?
Nothing like the team that won the Big 12.
Oklahoma State's 10,000. Texas Tech's 15,000. Baylor's 20,000. Kansas is 30,000 plus 30,000. So to bet 10, you win 3,000.
But their quarterback is plus 6,000. How does that make any sense?
Is the same. Arizona's the same. Cincinnati's plus 4,000. Sorry, Cincinnati. We gave you an easy schedule. Vegas hates you. Houston's down there. Wow. Okay, that's it. That's it for that. I'm done talking about that.
That's it.
That's it.
I'm done talking. We went over 30. That's too long. We love you. Thank you for listening. Daphne needs attention, so Zach's got to go. Gills has got to work, so Gills has got to go. Maybe Cole and I will just stick around and stare at each other.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
If you want to win your fantasy football league, it starts right now. The offseason is the best time to get ahead of the competition. We'll help you win your league on the Fantasy Football Today podcast, part of CBS Sports Podcast Network. Fantasy Football Today has 3 episodes every week following the latest news, giving you early rankings, early sleepers, breakouts, and busts. So if you're a dedicated fantasy football manager, check out the most dedicated podcast, Fantasy Football Today. Download and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere podcasts are found.